Hey there lads and ladies, it is Petrifying Pumpkins here, and I'm back already with another Firewall Zero Hour news update. There's just so much of it, it's coming thick and fast now. We're less than 2 weeks away, so I suppose this was inevitable. But all of this comes from the upload viewer writer, David Jagneaux. I don't know if I'm butchering his surname or not, apologies if I am. And I'd like to point out to Shane D as well, one of my viewers, who sent me this message saying that David was over on Reddit. He was answering people's questions about his 4-hour preview. So a lot of people were asking him questions. He dropped a lot of information we didn't know already. Some of it is actually very surprising. So I'm just going to go through it with you now. So the first kind of bombshell is that this game, Firewall, actually does have a melee attack. This was something I didn't expect. It's something they've never shown off, I don't think. I assumed it wasn't going to be in the game, but apparently you click the right stick or 3, which is the one on the back if you use the aim controller, and you'll do a knife attack. Maybe it's a knife attack for certain operators and it's different for someone else, I don't know, but that is the melee attack button. Next he answers a question about attachments for weapons and stuff like that, and he talks about there's slots for optics, there's slots for barrels, muzzles, all that kind of shit. But more interestingly, I think, because I think we already knew all that, is that each weapon has stats. So there's like a damage stat, accuracy, recoil, stuff like that. Now I'm guessing there won't be any weapon that's better than the others. It'll be like Battlefield kind of, where there are trade-offs. Some weapons might have better damage but less range, or etc, etc. So next he was asked about long range combat, and he was asked about scopes. We know there's red dot, we know there's holograph, but there is no scopes in the game right now. There's no magnifying scopes, so like you'd see in a sniper rifle or something like that, because that's a bit too taxing. But the developers told him that they want to add them in the future, so that might be something that happens. And he does speak about certain maps where a scope like that would be a benefit, because apparently this warehouse map is huge and there's long range opportunities, there's enemies in the distance and stuff like that. And then he was asked about how the in-game chat works. So he says, as far as he can tell, so this could be wrong now, but during the lobby area you can talk to both your team and the enemy, but when you're playing the match you can only talk to your team, and that there's no proximity chat. Now I'm not sure if that's true, well not all of us anyway, because I remember one of the earlier builds of Firewall had the ability where when you were in the lobby you could talk to the enemy team, but they removed that. I think they actually publicly mentioned that they removed that because they wanted it to just be your teammates talking to each other in that area, so that you could come up with tactics and whatnot. So unless they've brought that back, he could be wrong about this one particular part. But then when he talks about the in-game thing, he could be absolutely right about that. Maybe you just can't hear the enemy team. I hope he's wrong. I would like there to be proximity chat, but we'll see. So next he was asked about drift and the aim controller. Did he have any issues? Was there any drifting going on with the aim controller, stuff like that? And he answered that yes, he did have some issues, but that he thinks that's just inherent with PSVR, that wasn't something wrong with Firewall itself. But he said even with that being said, that it wasn't bad, except for one moment where there was some kind of issue and he fixed it by wiggling the camera around. But I think we all know that PSVR with light-based tracking, there's always going to be some jitter, you know. And I know a lot of people point to Farpoint and say this is how it should be done, whatnot, but when I'm playing Farpoint, every once in a while I will have to wiggle my aim controller just to get it right again. Not a big deal, it's just something that comes with the territory with PSVR. So this same guy then asked him, did he enjoy the game enough that he would play it again in his time off or whatever, and then he's like, absolutely. He said that when they were previewing the game, the developers offered them a chance to take a break, get some food or whatever, and everyone unanimously said no, we want to play more. So that sounds good to me. Like, he ends that then with saying that he's really eager to get that game at home, play with his friends and colleagues online. And then the same guy again, this guy by the way asked some good questions. He asked him about the walking speed, and then David replied saying that it is very slow, but you can't sprint with L3 at the sacrifice of making a ton of noise. He capitalized the ton there. So sprinting is not something you're going to want to be using very often. Maybe if you have the ninja perk. So another user then asked him to go into a bit more detail about gun attachments and stuff. So he said that each gun has a few slots. So one slot can be for optics. He only saw red dot and holograph in that preview. But then he says there's lots of different grips, with better ones being unlocked later on. There's different barrels, recoil compensators, suppressors, under barrel attachments like grenade launchers. So it looks like there is a lot of attachments that can go on weapons depending on if they're suitable or not. So then on a different article, or not a different article, but on a different Reddit post, and I'll put the links for both of these in the description below. If you have questions yourself that aren't asked here, by the way, he seems to be open for questions, so go ahead and ask him. But make sure that you don't spam him, obviously, and that he hasn't already answered the question somewhere else before you do. So he gets asked, does he have an idea of how many guns are in the game? And he says he doesn't know 100%, but he thinks there's around a dozen. And then he says there's probably 20 or so attachments in total. And then he says 30-ish camo skins. And that kind of adds up with what we've seen in the official trailers, where they said there's over 30 weapons and attachments and gears and stuff like that. Now, interestingly, there's kind of a big question mark right now over flashlights. We don't know if they're in the game or not right now. When we first saw Firewall in the the compound map, we know now, they had flashlights all over the place. We haven't really seen them since in any trailers, so a lot of people were suspecting they must have removed them. But then in the Firewall 101 immersion trailer, there was a scene 18 seconds in, I think it is, on the hotel map where you can clearly see it's on the social screen, so you don't have a clear look, but it very much looks like the player has a flashlight attached. But interestingly, David here says there's no flashlights. Well, he didn't see flashlights, and he asked me to point him to the video where there was flashlights, and he said he's gonna ask around. So right now we don't really know. If he gets back to me, finds a definitive answer, I'll let you know in the next video. And I think that is all the new bits and pieces of information. There's some good stuff there. Hopefully he'll be asked more questions. I can't really think of any questions to ask him myself right now. I feel like we know an awful lot about this game. So yeah, I'll keep it short enough. I'll end it there. It's only a quick update because this is kind of a quick thing that popped up as like a follow-up to the last video. So if you enjoyed this, please do the usual shite. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.